You have to put a human face to it. You can feed people and children statistics until they're blue in the face. They're numbers, they're things on paper. You know, I've had hundreds of children say to me, you know, I heard all the information. I read all the warnings and I saw the statistics, but I just didn't get it until you came in and talked to me.
Dawn Marcal is 25 years old. She's also HIV positive. She has AIDS.
I knew I had a choice. I could be miserable or I could try to be as positive as possible. I would rather live 2 years or whatever time I have positive than live to be 80 and be miserable.
Is that true? I mean, if you could make a bargain and you had the choice, Dawn, you have to stop doing all this school stuff and not talk about HIV, and you can live to be 80.
No.
Or you can keep on doing the school stuff, but you only live 2, 3, 4 more years.
No, you made me cry. I never thought of it in that way before, but no, I think I would choose to live the 4 years and make the difference because, I mean, how can you say this? You get so much out of giving.
What would you do if you knew that you were going to die, that you only had 2, 3, 5 years to live? It's not a frivolous question. Any one of us could die tomorrow. But suppose you knew that death was approaching. How would you choose to spend your last years and days? The story you're about to see isn't pretty, but it is important, and retelling it may save some of our children. I'm John Merrow, and this is Learning Matters.
The production and broadcast of Learning Matters have been made possible by the Lilly Endowment, Incorporated of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Susan tomorrow, his group?
Yeah, where do you want to go for dinner?
I don't know. We've been to all the restaurants around there. What do you feel like?
Dawn Marcal lives in San Francisco with her husband, Henry, and his son, her stepson, Christopher, who's 9 years old. On weekdays, Henry takes Christopher to school on his way to work. Then Dawn goes to her job. It's really volunteer work, educating high school students about AIDS.
I say a prayer, actually. What I do is when I go into a classroom, I say, you know, God and universe and whoever's out there listening, help me to say what I need to say today. Help me to say the right thing to get through to who I need to get through to today. Because maybe there's one kid in that class I need to get through to. I'm 25 years old and I have AIDS. When I was a teenager, the one thing that I really wanted to do was to find some wonderful guy and fall madly in love and have this great romantic relationship, right? And the big mistake that I made was that I believed it when some guy would say to me, hey, Dawn, if we have sex, that's going to bring us closer together. That's going to make our relationship stronger. I believed that, and I had sex with the guy, and I got hurt. I got dumped. I did all kinds of really crazy things. I tried all kinds of drugs. When I was 17, I tried IV drugs. It was just something new to try. And then something strange happened. I grew up. I stopped doing drugs. I finished high school. I went to college for a little while. I got a really good job in an office. I met this wonderful guy, and we fell in love.
Dawn goes on to tell the students that she and Henry were married and that after several years, she became pregnant with Lindsay.
I have baby pictures. I'm just going to pass them around. You can't get AIDS from touching these, I'm sure you know that, and I passed around her picture in the middle of the story as I'm telling what happened, and they don't know. And they see this cute, healthy, chubby-looking baby, and they think that she's still here.
Lindsay had health problems from the very beginning. She was in and out of hospitals. Then one day, Lindsay's doctor asked Dawn if she or her husband were drug users. They weren't, but Dawn had been as a teenager. Frightened, she went to be tested for AIDS.
Every night I'd go to bed and I would pray, and I'd pray to God, and I'd pray to Jesus, and I would pray to the Buddha, and everybody good, didn't talk to the evil guy, but talk to everybody good, you know, and I'd say, hey God, if I have to have this disease, fine, I can accept that. If I have to die of this disease, that's fine too. But please, God, please not my baby, not my daughter, she's my whole life, she's everything I live for. Don't make her have to pay for my mistakes. When Lindsay was 18 months old, she died. That was 2 years ago, so Mother's Day wasn't exactly fun for me. What I say to people, what I'll say to you, is that whether it's sex or drugs, the few minutes of pleasure that you get from those things are just not worth all the years of pain that you can also get from those things. And that it's really, really important that you love yourselves and you care about yourselves. And it sounds kind of corny, right? But when I was a teenager, I didn't like who I was. I guess I didn't think I was pretty enough or tall enough or skinny enough or whatever enough. And so I did things to hurt myself, and I let other people do things to hurt me. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Why do you do this? What do you get from this?
When my daughter died, when my baby died, I thought, what the hell am I going to do the rest of my life? She was my entire life. I breathed, I ate her, I slept. I mean, she was in our bed. She was everything to me. I really liked being her mommy. You know, that was my place in life. I was satisfied. And then she died, and it was like, what do I do with myself? And I spent 8 months looking around at all the volunteer organizations. And I had been through a situation with a person dying of AIDS. I didn't want to do that again, so I didn't want to be like a hospice person. And then I found this program.
The program Dawn Marcal found is called WEDGE. Sponsored by the Department of Public Health, but supported by contributions, WEDGE brings men and women who are HIV positive into local schools for AIDS education.
The message is that this disease affects anyone. It's not just a gay man's disease or a white man's disease, or women get it, babies get it, anybody can get it. The message is to be informed, you know, be educated so you don't. This disease is preventable. Nobody has to get this disease. So I talk to them about self-esteem, you know. One of the things I say to the kids is, don't wait for your parents to love you the way that you want to be loved. Don't wait for a boyfriend or a girlfriend to do it. You have to do it, you know. And I always thought they would laugh at me, you know, and think that's too corny. They don't. They want to hear it, you know. They want to hear that. I want them to know about AIDS. I want them to know about self-respect. I want them to... You don't go out and do drugs if you like who you are. You know, you don't go out and drink too much or take risks or drive in fast cars if you're secure and happy with your life. You know, I believe that these are things that teenagers do because they're confused and they don't feel they're good enough.
So you're not just doing AIDS education or sex education. Your aim is broader than that.
I guess so. I don't want them... See, I wouldn't have AIDS right now if I had respected myself enough to not put a needle in my arm or have unsafe sex. I wouldn't have it. My child would be alive today. I mean, that's pretty heavy, you know? And I don't want that to happen to them. I don't want them to make the same mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's whether you choose the ones that may kill you and your children, you know? So that's the main goal. I don't want it to happen to them. And I know that it's not just about having the information. It's about how you feel about yourself.
What is it that they all want to know but are afraid to ask?
The biggest one is, do I still have sex? That's the biggest one. And does my husband still want to sleep with me, you know? And I tell them, yes, we still have sex. It's just as good as before, but we use condoms every time, all the time. Because I couldn't live with the fact that if I infected my husband.
Do your husband have it?
No, he doesn't. He never caught it from me. He was really lucky. And now we have safe sex. Yes, we still have sex, but we have safe sex.
What do the AIDS virus do to your body?
It destroys your immune system. So AIDS doesn't kill you itself. There's certain little cells in your blood that protect you from illness, okay? And then the AIDS virus comes along and eats up all those good cells. So you don't have any protection anymore, so you can get cancers or pneumonias or just about anything.
So you can, like, catch a cold real easily?
Yeah, like, for instance, me and you could have the same virus, a cold virus. You would have the sniffles for the week. I'd end up in the hospital, you know, because my body can't fight it off. So the same thing. So if you get something like, a lot of times people die of cancer or pneumonias because their body can't fight them off.
When you're in a classroom with the kids, do you ever feel like a freak, a pariah?
They may when I first walk in, you know, I think there's a curiosity there of this is an actual person with AIDS, you know, this is a... But then as the time goes on, they find out that you're not different or special or weird. You're just like their brother, their sister, their mom, their dad, their cousin. You know, you could be their friend, somebody they know.
Yeah, I don't know if this might be a hard question for you, but do you ever think about when you die? Does that ever bother you?
Well, I really believe in God, And I really believe that we go somewhere after here. We better, or I'm going to be so disappointed, you know. And my daughter better come pick me up, or I'll be really pissed, you know.
There are people who put what you do in the category of scare education. They say that doesn't work, that you can't scare kids into behaving.
I don't go in there and say, if you get AIDS, you're going to die. You know, I don't go in there and attack these children. I go in, this is reality, baby. I'm sorry. You know, this is reality. This is my life. I'm not a made-up person to scare anybody. This is what really happened to me and can happen to anybody. And I know it works. I know it's you have to put a human face to it. You can feed people and children statistics until they're blue in the face. They're numbers, they're things on paper. You know, I've had hundreds of children say to me, you know, I heard all the information. I read all the warnings and I saw the statistics, but I just didn't get it until you came in and talked to me. You know, it didn't hit home till I saw a real person with a real life and a real story.
Do you think young people change their behavior after hearing your story?
I have letters that prove to me that they've at least, you know, thought about it. I have letters saying, I will wait now to have sex until I'm sure I'm ready for it. When I have sex, I'll use condoms. I've had really intense things, like one boy wrote me a letter saying that all his friends used IV drugs and they've been bugging him to use them. And he was going to go that weekend and use them. And now he just so happened I came into his class that week and he heard my story and he's not going to do it. How can you ask for more than that? You know, even if I never spoke again, I couldn't ask for more than what I've already affected in people's lives. So I know that it does work. I know that people do listen. I've had kids write me letters saying, not only do I know how to protect myself from getting the AIDS virus, but I know how to handle it if I find out that I have it.
But the kids may think, well, hey, you know, the odds are so slim that I'll ever get this.
I don't leave that for an option. I make it real clear that all it takes is once. Just by looking at me, they learn the lesson that you can't tell by looking at somebody, which is a real big thing for them to know, because especially teenage boys, they are convinced that there's going to be something showing that says this person has HIV, and I've had them walk around me in circles and really just stare and look me up and down, and then walk away shaking their heads because they just can't see it. I mean, this was before I had hair, you know, but they just can't, they can't see that I'm infected, and that's like a real big message they need to have.
Or you mean they think, oh, well, they could tell by looking at the girl.
She'll have something on her. I'll be able to tell. There'll be some way I can tell that she has the AIDS virus, you know, or that they're infected somehow. They have this misconception that, I don't have it printed across my forehead, you know, but they have this misconception that they'll know.
What's the right age to send this message?
I think kids are becoming sexually active a lot earlier nowadays, and you have to get them before they become sexually active. You have
So
to
we ought to start at age 12.
Start at least at 12, yeah. You have to wait till they kind of are getting those, you know, puberty blues, because otherwise, a lot of times, or you have to make it very simplistic for younger children. It's hard to, when a child doesn't know even what sex is.
You spend a lot of time in schools, and you probably have a pretty good idea of how much or how little kids know. How do you evaluate not just HIV/AIDS education, but sex education generally?
I think California's pretty progressive, and that a lot of the other parts of the country still need these programs. The kids in, say, where I spoke in Oregon had no information about AIDS. The high school kids didn't have, they had a little bit, but not much.
I think adults think kids know a whole lot about sexuality and sexually transmitted diseases and so on. Is that not true?
They don't, no. I mean, if the adults aren't telling them, how are they going to know, you know? And in a lot of places that I've been, they're not telling them. They don't, nobody wants to think of their 14-year-old daughters having sex or their 16-year-old son using IV drugs, but this is going on, and it's happening, and they do. You know, and the kids need the information to protect themselves. You're not going to really be able to stop them from having sex, but you can give them the tools that they need to protect themselves.
Wouldn't it be awfully easy to wallow in self-pity?
I think that that's why so many died in the beginning of this epidemic, because all you got was the negative messages and a lot of self-pity. Self-pity isn't going to do you any good. I made a real conscious choice when my daughter died to live, to fight this. I knew I had a choice. I could be miserable or I could try to be as positive as possible. I would rather live 2 years or whatever time I have positive than live to be 80 and be miserable. And it's a real conscious choice, you know, and sometimes you got to remind yourself every day, you know, oh, I'm feeling unhappy today. I can change that. I can choose to be happy. And like I said, when the baby died, I knew I could spend my life mourning my daughter. I mourn my daughter every day of my life anyway, but I could do it in a negative form, which is giving up, getting into my bed and not getting out, or I could take her life and do something with it. You know, and that was another real big incentive for me, was because I was validating my baby's life. I was telling people about what happened to her and what happened to us. And for me, that was my therapy, to work through the grief stuff.
Is that true? I mean, if you could make a bargain and you had the choice, Dawn, you have to stop doing all this school stuff and not talk about HIV, and you can live to be 80.
No.
Or you can keep on doing this school stuff, but you only live 2, 3, 4 more years.
No, you made me cry. I never thought of it in that way before, but no, I think I would choose to live the 4 years and make the difference, because, I mean, how can you say this? You get so much out of giving.
You've had health problems, you lost your hair as a reaction to medication, you were in and out of the hospital, you gained weight, lost weight, and yet you're so aggressively positive.
I think a lot of it has to do with how you think. If you're positive, I'm not saying that I won't eventually die, no matter how positive I am, because sometimes it's up to God and not us. But if I'm going to live here, I'm going to try to be as happy as I can, which was real difficult because I lost the baby. But she wouldn't want me to be. She'd want me to do what I'm doing. You know, she made such a difference in my life. And if I can share that, then it's worth it. It's not worth her dying, but it's worth being here.
Do you or did you ever hate yourself?
Oh, yeah. I think that there was a point when I could have said, well, I do deserve to die because I gave this to my child. And my husband was like, no way. You know, you didn't know you had this. I begged them to take me and leave her. You know, I begged the universe or whoever's in charge, or you know, to please let me take on her suffering. Give me the pneumonia, not her. You know, and it just doesn't work that way. And sometimes, how do I say, sometimes you have to live with what you did. It doesn't matter that you didn't mean to do it. You know, I still have to know that if I had made different choices, my child would be alive today. And that's something that I'm going to have to live with no matter what. I don't hate myself for that, but it's always there. But my husband wouldn't let me give in to that. You know, that's an out too. It's a way of giving up, and he wouldn't let me do that. And so I've come to terms with those feelings. But,
He sounds like a special guy.
He's amazing. He stayed home with the kids when I got the test results, and a girlfriend went with me to get the test results. And I came home and I walked in the house and I said, honey, I have this disease. It's positive. If you would like a divorce, I'll understand. I'll let you go. You know that it's okay for me to take the baby, live back with my family, that's an option. If you want out of this situation, I won't hate you, but go now. And he looked at me and he goes, Dawn, you know, this disease is no different than cancer or anything else, and I love you. And he stuck by me and supported me through the whole thing. And I really don't know if I could have been as good to him if the tables were turned and he was the one that infected our child as he's been to me. I don't know if I could have done that. He's never once said it was your fault and you've done that. You know, in fact, he was always the one not letting me feel like that. You know, not putting the guilt on me, helping me to work through the guilt. I don't know if I could have been as good to him. So I feel I'm real lucky that, you know, a lot of people don't want to deal with AIDS and don't want to deal with it and wouldn't have stayed with you. But he has. He's a good guy.
Tell me about people's reactions to you. What's worse, pity or hostility?
I can deal with hostility. I can deal with anger because it stems from fear. Basically, I've learned that that most of the hostility is from fear, you know, or ignorance.
But
I
pity?
don't like the pitying. I don't plan on dying tomorrow, and I don't like being treated like I'm going to, you know. But it's very hard because some people they may think you want that type of sympathy. You know, I don't, because I plan on kicking my feet the whole way, you know.
How about yourself? Do you have a sense of how long you have?
Well, the doctors would probably tell you that on a scale, you know, from healthy to sick, I'm more down towards the sick because my immune system is so badly destroyed. I don't like that word because I always think there's a possibility to rebuild it. I tell the doctors, kiss my behind. You know, I'm hanging around for a while. I'm not gonna buy into your. 2 years ago, they told me, you know, you're probably gonna get sick right away because you have very low T cells, and scared me to death. You know, and I decided, well, I'm gonna go out and live my life the way I want to. I made big changes. I quit a job I hated, and I found a job, or found something that really fulfills me. You know, I started eating better. I quit smoking. I didn't drink, but I don't drink. And you make real big changes towards living, not towards giving up or dying. Did that answer the question? They would tell me it's not good.
Are you afraid of death?
I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of being dead, because I really believe that there's somewhere else. There better be somewhere else. I really think that there is no hell. This is it. There's too much suffering here. People just don't have their priorities right. You know, the fact that as a whole we can allow people to starve is just beyond me. So I believe that there is a better place that we go after this. And if my daughter doesn't come and pick me up, I'm going to be really mad. But I'm afraid of how I'm going to die. I don't like to suffer. Nobody does. AIDS tends to kill you slowly. The diseases that you get are like cancer and pneumonia. Pneumonia doesn't kill you right away. It destroys your lungs first until they can't fight anymore. And that scares me, because that's kind of what happened to my daughter. So I'm more afraid of how I'm going to die than being dead. I think being dead may be okay, you know? It may be a much nicer place.
These days, Dawn Marcal is feeling strong and healthy, and she intends to keep on working in the Wedge program to spread her message just as long as her health allows. Dawn Marcal is a courageous young woman whose message bears repeating. There's more to AIDS, HIV education than facts and figures, body parts, and do's and don'ts. Children need what we all need: love, encouragement, and respect, if they're going to grow up respecting themselves. And children who respect themselves eventually become teenagers who are much more likely to avoid self-destructive behavior. Unless there's a medical breakthrough on AIDS, Dawn Marcal won't get a second chance. But she's given one to us and to our children. For Learning Matters, I'm John Merrill.
To find out more about this program, visit us at PBS Online at the internet address on your screen.
The production and broadcast of Learning Matters have been made possible by the Lilly Endowment, Incorporated of Indianapolis, Indiana.